frankly, she thought it was nuts. Sidebar, my dream vacation is going to a beachside resort with bottomless cocktails, but I digress. So the next week we took off. We flew to Puerto Rico, took a scary propeller plane to Martinique, and then a catamaran to Dominica. It was a very long, hard trip. We arrived at the hotel, checked in, and headed out for dinner. The menu looked great. Curried mahi-mahi, broiled lobster, coconut shrimp, but they didn't actually have any of that food. They gave you the menus, but the only food on the entire island was whitefish Veracruz. That's whitefish boiled in tomatoes. So the next morning we meet up with our guide and our merry band of hiking misfits for this grand excursion. Much of this trail is along a razor-thin muddy ridge, kind of tricky to navigate. Within the first 8 minutes, despite following in the footsteps of those in front of me, I sink into an impossibly deep mud hole. I sink into my waist and I can't get out. I envision this is what it's like to be enveloped in quicksand. The guide had to come back, break off a branch, and pull me out. Nick was horrified. This set a bad tone for the brutal climb. I'm covered in mud and I'm not feeling right. The next hour is a steep ascent. Portions of it were called the ladder. We climb and climb, and honestly, I wonder if I'm gonna make it. My legs are feeling like rubber bands. Then we reach the Valley of Desolation, which is a lunar landscape of crisscrossing streams with rising vapor. Very eerie. It's been 5 hours and we finally make it to the top. The lake is awesome. It's this grayish blue water that's perpetually rolling. It looks like a giant pot of hot water cooking and steaming. What it actually is a flooded fumarole. So there's a crack that releases gases from the molten lava and that boils the water. So after taking this wonder of the lake, we start the descent back, and I'm getting worse. Nick is giving me a hard time. I've trained for this. What could possibly be wrong with me? The next morning we wake up and I have a rash and I feel very weak. But we forge on, the next leg of the trip. We take a 4-hour ride in this bus along this treacherous road that hugs the coastline to get to the other side of the island. We check into the luxury hotel that Nick has booked for us. Here are the amenities that are missing from the $10 a night hotel. No bathroom or showers in the room, just one communal on each floor. No air conditioning or TV. And no food except for whitefish Veracruz. What it did have was not good. Our room butted up against a drive-in theater. The speakers were literally adjacent to our room. The theater plays one movie back to back. Unlawful entry. At 180 decibels, the sound is just like someone is breaking through our hotel wall into our room. So the movie plays until midnight, and at 5 a.m., the laborers working outside our window are blaring Bob Marley, "Is This Love?" And I can tell you, that would be no. The next morning, I wake up in a fever, covered with boils. They're in my hair, in my eyes, in my mouth, between my toes. I look terrible. We head out to find the only doctor's office on the island, which is an open-air shack with goats tied out front. Nick is propping me up and dragging me there. We sit in the waiting room, and I'm glancing around at the signs on the wall posted saying, "How to treat leprosy." I am now convinced I'm going to be forced to stay on the outskirts of town with the other lepers. The doctor realizes that we were in the rainforest and diagnoses me with an allergic reaction. He gives me a mystery shot, writes it down in this little book, and sends us on our way. Now bear in mind, this is long before smartphones, WebMD, internet cafes. There aren't even payphones. So we're at the mercy of these people. We get back to the hotel and I proceed to sleep for 48 hours straight. Nick is just starting to embrace the gravity of the situation. I sleep through days and nights of unlawful entry and reggae wake-up calls. When I do waken, I'm left alone to suffer in a sweltering hotel room with no TV, no edible food, or hope. After 4 days, it's time to make our way back home. I now look like the Elephant Woman. We take a van ride along the coastal shore, the catamaran to Martinique, the propeller plane to Puerto Rico. But then we make it to customs, where they won't let me through. I don't look anything like my passport photo. They didn't believe it was me. Miss, do you have any other form of identification? How do you prove your identity when you're completely unrecognizable? Somehow we convince them to let us through. We board the plane and the flight attendant matter-of-factly says to me, "You can't fly, you've got the chicken pox." I was so incensed, I pulled out my medical record that proved I had an allergic reaction. She grudgingly decided to let me fly. I was incredibly annoyed by her armchair diagnosis and the power she was wielding to nearly get me thrown off the plane. I kept thinking to myself, if she only knew I had leprosy, she really would let me. We arrive at O'Hare and beeline to Northwestern Hospital. Now, for those of you that have spent any time in an ER, you know that on a good day, it takes 3 to 4 hours to see a doctor. We register and immediately are ushered into a room, totally skipping triage, because I'm frightening everyone in the waiting room. Apparently, it pays to be disfigured. I get to the room and the doctor takes a brief look at me, turns on his heel, and leaves, returning with 3 more doctors. They're all poking and prodding like I'm some science project. I'm sure the leprosy is something you don't see every day in Chicago. Finally, the doctor declares that he's never seen a worse case of chickenpox. Meanwhile, Nick is backing away from me, inching bit by bit. He's plastered against the wall. And he says, okay, well, I'm gonna go to Evanston and stay with my parents, and you can go stay downtown, and I'll come back when you're better. The doctors are even more horrified than me at his reaction. They gleefully inform him that it's too late. If he's gonna get it, he already has it. There is a 3-week incubation period, and that can't be avoided. What are the chances that 2 32-year-olds haven't had the chicken pox? So, we go back home, and Nick is having a heyday. Since he's contagious, we're quarantined. He has 2 weeks of feeling just fine, watching movies, and not taking care of me. His fun and games include terrorizing delivery people. Very slowly, put the flowers on the ground. Now run, we're contagious! And then when Maria came to visit me, he said, "Don't look right at her," because of my hideous appearance. On day 20 of the 21-day incubation period, he danced around the house singing, "I'm not gonna get it." But as karma goes, on day 21, he wakes up to reality. Here's the thing. When I came down with the chicken pox, we didn't know what it was. The fear of the unknown was far worse than anything we could imagine. And when he got them, he knew exactly what he had. Now, I don't mean to stereotype, but here I go. As a male, his chickenpox were way worse than mine. In his mind, no one in the history of the world had had a case of chickenpox as bad as his. He had me microwaving washcloths to put on his forehead and waiting on him hand and foot. He wasn't traveling across a third world country wondering if he was going to die. Yet every day He told me he was. As an epilogue, my list of had I only known is great. And I don't think it's going to surprise any of you to learn that Nick is now my ex-husband. As empathetic and understanding as he was. But the biggest thing, in retrospect, is only if I had known that being exposed to shingles when you haven't had the chickenpox will actually give you the chickenpox, I might have foregone that visit from Maria. But in the grand scheme of things, we never really get the luxury of hindsight. And I'm happy of where I am, so who could ask for anything more? Yeah.